Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're decoding the science of intelligence. Let me ask you a question right off the bat. What if your brain power actually isn't fixed? You know, society generally operates on this really rigid assumption that our intellect is just locked in at birth. But today, we're going to challenge that entirely by looking at the actual habits of history's most brilliant minds.
So, is IQ strictly a genetic trait? For years, the mainstream narrative has been that intelligence is basically a genetic lottery. You get your baseline at birth, and, well, you're just kind of stuck with it. But think about it. If intelligence was just a barcode scanned at birth, human history would look completely different. Let's look at some evidence that totally shatters this myth.
Okay, let's dive into this, because the contrast here is just absolutely fascinating. Albert Einstein was literally called slow by his childhood teachers, and Thomas Edison, he was actually expelled because educators thought he just couldn't grasp the material. No way, right? Yet, these two individuals went on to completely revolutionize the world as we know it. So, if the traditional school systems misjudged them so badly, what was really going on?
Well, the secret lies in rewiring the brain. I mean, Einstein and Edison's genetics didn't just suddenly change overnight. What defined them were their habits. Their daily routines fundamentally altered how their brains process the world around them. So as we go through this, we're going to uncover the 6 specific, science-backed habits that actively grow your intelligence.
Let's start with phase 1, input and processing. The first habit here is incredibly simple but surprisingly demanding. Think without any screen. While it's super tempting to assume our intelligence grows linearly with the sheer amount of content we consume, modern neuroscience actually shows that constant input stunts us. Your brain desperately needs the space to process things without any external noise.
And that naturally brings us to habit number 2, undistracted thinking. Consuming more information doesn't automatically equal intelligence. Instead of our modern habit of hyperconsumption, like endlessly scrolling videos or binging audio, the brain actually becomes smarter when it's forcibly deprived of external input. Take Einstein, for example. He went on these long, solitary walks in complete silence just to force his brain to generate its own input. Studies totally back this up too. Undistracted thinking spikes problem-solving intelligence. So, the prescription? Try a 20-minute silent walk every single day. That little bit of discomfort you feel? That's literally the sensation of your mind expanding.
Moving to habit number 3, we have a great processing tool, writing. Writing slows down the brain's overthinking speed. If you're just viewing writing as a way to store information on paper, you're missing its true utility. Smart people use it as an active tool for deep thinking. Keeping a daily thinking journal to explicitly write out, what do I actually understand and what's confusing me right now, takes multiple scattered thoughts and forces them into one clear, focused image.
All right, shifting gears a bit, we arrive at phase 2, practice and expansion. Make mistakes and try again. Just like a physical muscle, your brain and your memory need active resistance to grow stronger. If you're just handed the answer to a really complex puzzle, your brain learns absolutely nothing from it. Neural pathways only strengthen when you struggle, when you make mistakes, and when you try again. Failing isn't a sign of low intelligence, folks. It is the exact mechanism that builds it.
And this brilliantly illustrates that exact concept in action. This is Benjamin Franklin's personal method for intellectual growth. Step 1, read the material. Step 2, close the book entirely to remove that safety net. And step 3, force yourself to write what you just learned entirely from memory. He's actively forcing his brain to struggle with a puzzle, building cognitive resistance before he ever asks for help.
Our 4th habit is expanding your mental horizon by connecting the dots outside your main subject. Highly intelligent people rarely hyper-specialize in just one isolated topic. Instead, they cast a wide net. They actively study vastly different subjects, science, art, history, tech, and then they force their brains to find the overlaps between them. Consciously learning something entirely outside your normal field every single week literally builds faster neural connections and a significantly smarter brain.
Habit number 5 confronts a really common myth. Memory is an active skill. It's not a born talent. So often we treat a bad memory like some kind of permanent genetic flaw. But the ultimate way to flex this mental muscle is actually through teaching. After you learn something new, try closing the source material and explaining it out loud to a friend. Forcing yourself to articulate a concept to someone else organizes the information in your own head with pristine clarity.
Now, let's take a breath. We're moving into phase 3, recovery, giving the brain rest. In a culture that really glorifies the hustle,
We generally just assume that nonstop grinding is the ultimate path to genius. But that completely ignores our human biology. So let's look at our final and maybe most surprising phase of intellectual growth through a prime historical example.
5. Yep, just 5 hours. That was the absolute maximum time Charles Darwin worked on his research in a single day. The man who entirely shifted our understanding of biology spent the vast majority of his day simply walking, observing, and resting. It totally proves that endless grinding isn't the actual secret to genius. The brain doesn't upgrade itself while you sprint. It actually upgrades itself while you rest.
Which brings us to our 6th and final habit, embracing boredom. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it reframes boredom. It's not a mental weakness. It's the active recharging and upgrading of the brain. You know, the second we feel even slightly bored today, we instantly reach for our phones. But prioritizing high-quality sleep, getting natural sunlight, and actually allowing yourself to feel bored for a bit, these are the crucial periods where your brain compiles all its data and forms new, brilliant connections.
So, we've covered the whole shebang today. Taking silent walks, struggling before seeking help, journaling our thoughts, learning across vastly different disciplines, teaching others to build memory, and finally, getting genuine rest. I want to leave you with one final, provocative challenge. Which habit will you change today? Remember, simply collecting facts doesn't make you truly intelligent. True intelligence is found in the application. Pick just one habit, implement it today, and start rewiring your brain. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.